Okay, happy Tuesday, everyone. Please welcome Dr. John Jacob. He is with the XY Theory. He runs well, I'll let him explain a little bit more about who he is. Hi, Dr. John. Happy Tuesday. Thank you for joining.
Hi. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so can you tell us a little bit about what you do and what the XY personality test is?
I've been researching for 10 years to find a way to predict how relationships would turn out. So I can predict the outcome of a relationship before you actually get into it. And so I literally started with romantic relationships
Okay.
and kept hearing from folks who were using it that they were noticing that it worked to improve their relationships with their children, with their coworkers. So I began to realize that the algorithm had a lot of applications outside of that, and then figured that I wanted to start a coaching school to train coaches to actually use the algorithm and the applications to improve what they're providing for their clients.
Awesome. And so with this, it started as personal relationships, and as it's evolved, because it's been a bit of time, where is this algorithm now?
So the algorithm right now is it's morphed into 15 different tests. So
Okay.
15 tests, yes, I know it's quite a bit, but I wanted to make sure that every aspect, every facet of every interaction is covered. So the way I'd like to do it, for instance, once this algorithm is up and running, so right now it's like sort of like a relaunch because I didn't know about the other applications, but now that I do, I can literally walk into a business like a corporation and sort of like unleash the algorithm, and it would connect everyone in that corporation with each other and tell them the best way that they can interact with each other so they could form better teams.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay.
Yeah. So that's what I'm working on right now. And also we are in the process of creating a dating website. So yeah, it'll be like Tinder, but at the speed of a swipe, you can not just see if the person is attractive enough, but you'll also be able to tell what the interaction would be like inside of the relationship. So that's what the algorithm does. It's a predictive algorithm. You can tell 2 years down, 5 years in, 10 years in, what the relationship would be like.
That's amazing. And that's great, especially in companies. I see, well, obviously for personal relationships, that's saving a lot of time and making it
Right.
very efficient. But in companies, because when you hire on and with interviewing and HR and everything else, and especially when you're going to build a team from solopreneur to a company, that's
Yeah.
really essential information to have.
Yes, it is. Um, I have programmers that are working for me right now. It's a company I'm contracting with. And what they actually said is, as they're working on it, they said, hey, if we had this, they said it took them about 5 years to build their team.
Wow.
And these are programmers. So, programmers, they have some issues with regard to EQ and being able to communicate and to interact. And so the guy had said, if I had this, I would have been able to build my team in 2 months when
Mm.
it took me 5 years to actually get five guys together.
Wow. Yeah, and that's a pretty small team. I mean, I face that as well in bringing on people of the team. And
Right.
there's other tests as well that I make them take, but now this
Yes.
is top of my list to make them take that. So how did you fall into this? Because you're a doctor, right? You have a
Yeah.
PhD?
In psychology, yeah.
Okay, in psychology. And so
Yeah.
what made you think of this or want to start the algorithm?
Yeah. So yes, I have a PhD in psychology, but so do thousands of others, right? I observed my parents, and my parents were having a really hard time with communication, and just the interaction. And I knew that they loved each other, and they couldn't make it work. I mean, they never divorced, but it was difficult. It was a struggle. So I decided I would. Use my time and my resources and my energy to figure out if there's a way to predict how a relationship would turn out before you even go on that first date, before you even say hello. And so it took first about 7 years to research that, and then 3 years to pilot test it. And this really was what gave me that whole science, and it's a new science because no one else is looking at it this way. Um, Basically, everyone thinks that you just look at the style that you have when you're communicating or interacting, or even being intimate. But what my research was showing is that it wasn't just the style; it was the amount. So
Mm.
if I could find a way to predict what your communication needs are in a quantifiable way, where I can predict how much you need, then I could better match you up with someone who has that same need or could provide it.
Oh, that's awesome. So that would be mainly the key denominator, the key distinction between these other tests that are out there, right?
Yeah. So Yes, quantifying, right? Just being able to measure it and also to be able to predict it. Because a lot of people could say, okay, well, I can measure this, but you can't predict it in the way that we do. So it's not just about communication. It's not just about, well, I could talk for an hour and you could only talk for 5 minutes. But it's about there are about 12 different types of communication, and each of those are measured individually. So it gets to be very complex, which is why we figured we needed an algorithm to do it and not just a little questionnaire. And so it's communication, it's intimacy, it's also something we call interactivity, which has to do with how you would handle differences like conflict.
Mm.
So we can actually predict whether or not your conflict resolution style is going to match the person that you are interested in before you get into the relationship. And if you insist on still going into the relationship, then we could tell you how to adjust how you are going to approach it so that you can have success.
Well, that's awesome. Okay. And so, what are you excited about for the conference? Because this is something that's, I'm sure a lot of people have heard, but not as in depth or able to use a tool this in depth to help predict really their relationships and then their relationships with their coworkers or their co-founders in this case.
Right. In terms of what I would be bringing to the conference, yeah. So this is the first time I've had 2 or 3 tests. This is the first time that I'm going to bring all 15, and they're free, so anyone can try them out. And so I expect the folks that are there and listening would be able to go home immediately, try it out with their children, or try it out with their husbands, or try it out with their coworkers. And I get a chance to see how that is received and see how that works. And to do it among coaches and other entrepreneurs, that is really exciting.
That's awesome. And then what excites you the most about a conscious coach right now?
Well, you guys are doing this very differently from anyone else. That's the first thing I have to say. So you're focusing on marketing, and then you're bringing that together with the whole mindset piece, and also you're gonna have the whole coaching piece, and the way you guys have brought it together. Usually, you have to go to like 3 or 4 different conferences to get what you guys are producing in one. So I'm really excited about that.
That makes me very happy to hear. Yeah, because we seek to really essentially provide that balance, right? Or that merging between what coaches need as tools and then what they need in business to be able to create a
Right,
sustainable and scalable business. So
right.
a lot of the market is lopsided, which is why we have come in to offer
Mhm.
this solution.
Yes, it's a good idea. Great idea.
Thank you. Yeah, that fills my heart to hear. So we have a couple of viewers. If you have any questions for John Jacob, Dr. John Jacob, about his algorithm, about productivity of relationships and how you can predict relationships. Do you have any new tests? So you have 15 right now. Do you have any new ones coming out anytime in the future?
Yeah. So of the 15, 12 of them are new. I
Okay.
mean,
Oh, wow.
like brand new, like no one has ever seen them. Not even up to this point. They will be available before we get to the conference, so people will be able to try it out. But literally, they can predict any type of relationship. And one of the new ones is the parent-child communication. A lot of parents are struggling with their children, and they, kind of blaming it on social media and blaming it on new tech, and it's really a failure to connect with their child because they have one interaction style and the child has another, and they have no idea how to bridge that.
Mhm.
So the test is free, and parents can go on there and they can literally find out what their interaction style is. And it's called XY theory because I literally have boiled it down to just those 2 letters. So you can look and you can say, okay, I'm an XX, and then your child might be a YY, and you'll know what those mean, and you'll know that X's and Y's don't go together without some intervention, someone on the outside saying, okay, this is what's going on, and this is how you need to tweak or adjust so that you could, fit. So
I'm
yeah,
sure a
that's
couple people had certain names pop into their head. And I was like, oh, that explains it. I'm probably next slide with a couple people.
right, right. And I also have a test I call the X, the X test, and not as in XY, but EX as in your ex-boyfriend or your ex-wife or your ex-girlfriend, and you can take that test and it literally will allow you to match up with the partner that you no longer have, so you could see if an XY difference was what really was causing the problems and you never knew. So you could go kind of like in retrospect, and you can do that. Or there's a perception test. So if you have a partner that is resistant to taking any test at all, and that happens a lot more than you would imagine,
Yeah.
you can literally take the test for them, and it's 100% accurate. You get exactly the same thing that you would get as if they had taken it themselves.
Oh, I like that because I've been on the phone with people in general and I'm just like, I have a random question, just answer. And they're like, where are these questions coming from? I'm like, we're almost done. We're almost
Yeah,
done.
yeah,
I
yeah.
have to take the test. That's awesome. And so bringing it back a little bit into, I love how it's predictable and it helps manage those relationships. What benefits have you seen your clients get in the business side from taking these tests?
Oh wow. It's transformative. Clients come to us and they of course don't know about XY theory, which is nice because nobody's heard of it. When they come to me for the first time, so they're able to take the test in a few minutes, maybe like 10 minutes, and the test will actually show them where the differences lie, and give them some. And then where the coach comes in is the coach can now guide them. Because the problem with coaching, the way I see it, is that sometimes we have clients that present with certain problems, and we don't have a path to go from problem to solution. we know
Mm-hmm.
we know what the problem is and we know what we'd like it to be, how, in terms of an outcome, but we don't have a path there, mostly because we didn't we don't have a way to dissect the problem and analyze it and break it up into its component parts. Well, XY theory does that. And so coaches that use XY theory or the algorithm, or come in through our program, they've reported that they found it easier to meet with clients and to address client issues. And the clients themselves, I mean, it's just like eye opening when they realize, oh my gosh, so you mean it wasn't me. I've had one guy married for like 40 years, and he discovered that, well, he took XY theory and he discovered that he and his wife had a completely different interaction style. And he was being blamed, for the relationship failure all along, until they got to XY theory, and then the wife cried and apologized, and it's very transformative.
Oh, that's awesome.
Hmm.
And so with the coaching that you provide coaching as well, right? You've been
Yes.
a coach for some time now. And so
Mhm.
what kind of coaching support does your company do in the XY theory?
Okay, so once you go through our program, you can call um, at any time, and you can get support. But we're going to do things a little differently in the future. We are going to actually help coaches find clients. We're going to provide clientele for coaches. So, which is another problem that a lot of coaches have. They got the training, but then they don't know how to, even though we share the business aspect of it, but actually giving them the connection. Okay, here are
Mhm.
three clients, and we connect them like that. Also, XY theory also works for the client coach relationship. Even if you were a therapist, you would go to a therapist, and some therapists would work for you and some wouldn't, and it's because of the connection. But XY theory could predict that connection, so it enables you as a coach to really, really, really pick clients that you well matched with. And so that's something that we're heading toward, probably in the next couple of months.
That's fantastic. A, because everyone always needs new
Yeah.
clients, right? And
Yes.
then
Yes.
B, those, and you hear a lot of those dream clients. Like, who is your dream client and how do you get to your dream clients? So
Yeah.
that's a beautiful solution that you're offering through
Yeah.
your customer company.
Yeah.
So I thank you for that, for all of the coaches.
Yeah. Yeah. And I just wanted to add one thing. Um, so what we're about to launch first is the testing platform. So basically, once it's launched, and the programmers are like a few weeks away from that. It literally will allow anyone anywhere to take a free test, whether they're couples, whether they're in a corporation, whether it's parent and child. But what the test actually does is it opens your eyes to potential problems down the road, and actually opens your eyes to problems that are like looming, like they're right there and you didn't really recognize it. And so XY Theory has the power to actually generate clients, and not in a
Mm,
flippant way, but really in an eye-opening way, where they're like, oh my gosh, so I've always had this problem with my child, but I had no idea what it is. And now it's like they're saying this is what it is. And what I found is these people, they keep calling, they keep coming, and it's because the test is able to shake it up, like you're shaking up a nest, you
yeah.
know what I'm saying? And so that's very exciting.
That's really exciting. And I know I use assessments a lot. Quizzes are very popular, right? Like the lower term we could call them. But assessments are really important. And I was actually at a meeting at the SDPCA, which is the Professional Coaches Alliance here in San Diego. And we had a whole talk and workshop on it and how important. And it was surprising to see how many coaches did use assessments and then the benefits that it brought into their practice and their session, because you get a deeper knowing of your client so you can help them better.
Yes, yes.
It's awesome. So if any of our viewers, I still see a couple on, or if you're watching the replay, please drop any questions that you might have about the XY theory, the relationship test, or about Dr. John Jacobs himself. He will be at the conference. And so as I say on all of the lives, take advantage, because the next time you see him, you'll have to pay.
That's funny.
And so tell us a little bit more about, so you're going to be able to offer these tests for everyone at the conference, right? And I appreciate that. Thank you so much for offering that. Your talk itself, what are they going to learn or gain from it that they can apply to their coaching business right away?
Right. So immediately, what we found is that people connect in different ways. And it doesn't matter what kind of arena, whether it's professional or personal. So what we have is we will be sharing the 7 or 8 different ways that people connect. But we will spend most of the time with what we call the relationship or relational connection, because that is the basis of everything. But we'll be sharing with people, okay, and depending on what your clients present with, you will be able to categorize the problem and provide the actual assessment to help you measure it. And then that assessment and support from our team will allow you to take them from problem to solution. And so that's what I'll be presenting. Also, the tests that will be available free. The folks that are sitting there attending this, they'll be able to go on their phones
And do it.
And yeah, just do it right then and there, and they'll get the result right then and there in 5 minutes.
That's great. And then based on others, so I know that a lot of the other assessments that, I've looked into that I've taken, and I hate to compare, but it's just to give us a little bit of insight about it. How does it compare in the way of a lot of the assessments that people take? You have to then buy a course and be completely trained and everything that it means to then be able to use it and apply it. Is it kind of similar, or is it kind of a, ready, set, go, where it's pretty understandable and can be translated pretty well to the people who are going to use the test?
Yeah, so yes, they will understand it. There'll be a little bit of explanation because it's such a new concept. If I tell you that you have an XX personality, I'd better tell you something a little more than that, because you'd be like, what is that, So we have to explain the 4 personality types, and we do. And you'll get that explanation. You get the explanation after you take the test, because if you get it before, I want to make sure that you're not, slanting your answers.
I was about to ask you what they
were. Yeah. So you get the explanation after. And so after it tells you, okay, you're an XX, then they'll say, okay, you have a high need for this, you have a high need for that. And, so you take it from there. There's always a free component. And I know we live in an age of freemiums, and that's not the reason why I did it. I really did it because I have an absolute passion for changing the way we relate to each other, in person and also in businesses. Literally, if I had my dream would be for every single family, every single school, every single corporation or business to be connected, to know how to interact with each other in very, very positive ways. As you notice, the discourse in our nation and probably across the world right now is getting very caustic and very negative. And I think this is a way for us to push back against that by helping people to know, okay, this is what you need. I mean, this test can actually tell you if the tone of your voice is abrasive to your partner, when your partner might be afraid to even say that to you, but the test would tell you. And so it really, really is designed to improve relationships across the board. And that's my real passion. That's my real excitement.
And I love that, because connection is a big theme, and it's the theme of this year's conference. It's all about connection and really deepening that connection on a level, because everyone right now, we're so connected that we're disconnected. All relationships are very superficial. And so I love that you're coming in with this test to help us really deepen those relationships and across the board, right? Especially in business, because it's going to be a lot of entrepreneurs that are very business hungry, and I completely understand. But if that's going to better their relationship as well, that's going to help all over. So
It
that's
is. It is. I mean, it's so easy for an HR department to hire someone based on their qualifications. I mean, anybody can do that. But what you don't know is, would that person be able to fit in with the team? Would they fit in with the culture? Would they have the interaction skills that you need so that you can maximize productivity? And this test can tell you that. So, yeah.
and that's great because I have started to see bigger companies using assessments and tests like
Hmm.
this, and that it's a requirement. And it's funny because I even have a friend who was like, "Oh yeah, I had to take this assessment," so I called to see what type of personality they were looking for, so I could like skew towards them. Like
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
but it is because there's certain things, there's certain those hot, soft, and hard skills that some of them you can't learn, right? That they're just so ingrained in you, and those come out in assessments like these.
Hmm. Yeah.
Great. Well, if there are no questions for Dr. John, I will soon let him go to continue his Tuesday because it is Taco Tuesday in San Diego.
Right.
It's a very big thing for us San Diegans out
Okay. Yeah.
here. It has been, let's see, anyone? Well, I'll ask one more. So what has been, because there's always pushback in business, right? So what has been the pushback that you have heard about the test or any of the skepticism that you've heard around the test?
So when I first started, I referred to it as a personality test.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason for that is it's the research is steeped in science, neuroscience. And the way I'm able to predict is I can predict. Okay, so you've heard about oxytocin and how oxytocin. Okay, it's a bonding hormone. So I found a way to use the test to measure your need for oxytocin. So then I can tell how much of a bonding need or connection need you need, because some people don't need to be that connected. And that's
Mm-hmm.
the problem. If I need a strong connection and you need a weak connection, meaning that you want a little space, um, uh, we'd have a problem. We wouldn't know what the problem is, but we'd have a clash. So there's a lot of science involved. Um, and when you introduce a lot of science and you tell people, listen, I can scientifically predict the outcome of your relationship before you get in, some people get a little queasy. I have found some people that didn't want to take the test, and I've had a lot of people that said, you know what, um, give me the test. So I want to take the couples test because you have a couples version. Give me the couples test, but I don't want my result to go to my husband. Can you, can you do it in such a way so that my result comes to me and his result comes to me and he doesn't know? So I will decide whether or not to share it with him. Right? So that person thought that if the husband saw that they were mismatched in any way, instead of him wanting to work on it, he might just be like, you know what, this isn't working out. So I had to tweak tests and tweak um, different things so that people could,
Delivery systems.
right? So that people could, kind of get what they want. And also, I moved slightly away from calling it a personality test, even though it is so scientifically determined and predetermined, to the extent that there's research out in the UK that has actually found that they can tell what that type of personality would be at birth, and some scientists can tell in the womb.
Oh, wow.
Exactly. So it is extremely scientifically supported. But the problem, so that's good news. But the negative side of that is. Some people might feel that it's too fatalistic, too determinative,
Mm-hmm.
too, well, if it's determined in the womb, then I can't change him or I can't change myself. You know what I'm saying? We don't talk about changing in our coaching model, we talk about adjusting. Because you can make little minor adjustments that'll feel like you changed everything. And so that's what we train our coaches to do.
Awesome. So we have a question, which I think we covered, but we're going to repeat it. So if she says, hi, I would like to know how many types of personalities have you found overall?
4 types.
For,
So, yeah, there are four
but
types of personality.
is it 12 and then it hybrids into like 4? Because like the X and the Y, or is it
Okay,
just
so
4?
I'll explain.
Get the dirty.
Yeah, I know. I have to stay hydrated. Um, so the first X tells you about your communication needs,
Okay.
and the second letter tells you about your intimacy needs. And then you have the other things that I talked about, like you could tell whether somebody's going to be someone that can adjust easily in a relationship, and the conflict resolution piece, right? But the core of it is communication and intimacy. And so basically, if you have a high need for communication, that's you'll be an X, and if you have a low need for communication, you'll be a Y. So once you start putting those pieces together, you realize you have four thing combinations. You have XX, YY, YX, and XY. So if you high in communication and high in intimacy, you would want somebody that is also high in those two, because you wouldn't be asking. The problem is, I have some couples that I'm working with right now, and they have what I call an inverted relationship. And so what that means is he's XY and she's YX. And that's one of the most difficult ones to treat, because he wants to give her what she doesn't need, and she needs what he can't give. So there are four types, yeah.
And so if it was the other way than inverted and someone has high communication, isn't there a way to talk through it to be
Yes.
able to communicate those needs? I think that would be highly important. I think I'd prefer high communication than low, just because it's something that you can talk through, right? And communication
So,
is key to
so,
everything.
so what you might also be asking is whether or not it's easier to adjust from a high need or from a low need. So I have found that it's easier for someone to talk less than to force someone to talk more. And so what we found in our research is the X type, which is the high, usually does the heavy lifting in the relationship. That person does most of the adjusting because they can.
Okay.
As it turns out, you have that high need because of a high level of oxytocin in your system, naturally occurring in your system. And one of the side effects of oxytocin is flexibility.
Okay.
So being a high oxytocin individual actually makes you more adaptable, which is why X's in a relationship usually do more of the work.
Okay, awesome. And so she says also, how can this theory tell if the candidate will fit within the company culture?
Okay, so what the programmers have created at my request, but it turned out to be better than I expected. What they've created is you so you send in, let's say you have a team, you want to create a team of 15 people. So the algorithm will ask you who's the team leader.
Okay.
And so everyone in that team will have to take the test, of course. And the team leader has a personality type. And what it'll do is it'll pull people from a pool and throw them into various teams that have matching personality styles. So the problem in teams is when you have folks that have different styles, you get a clash, and it affects productivity. But what the algorithm can do is it can, just how you can have four different types of personality types, it can actually do that with teams, so that you have a team. For instance, if you wanted a team that was high in creativity, you will throw several X's in there. If you wanted a team that was high in productivity and not much creativity, you'd throw more Y's. If you wanted a balance of the two, then the algorithm can give you half and half. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, so kind of self-makes. So the link is in the screen below, xytheory.com. Delia, you can look at it there. And then I think that one, she can go to the website and, oh yeah, there is one and it says our team, and you can find and create one for your team as well and have your teams take it. And then so that way, if that's created already, is that
Okay,
like
it's that one is about it's created, but it's still being pilot tested. So it's probably about a few weeks out.
Okay.
So they've been working diligently almost for the last year, and every time they get close, I give them some new twist, something else I want them to add, which is pushing it. But I'll stop, and then so they'll get finished, because I need this to be finished in time for your conference.
She says, interesting, thank you. So my question with that was, does that link into, so let's say we formed a team, and for X, Y, and Z, as we say, we lost someone on our team, right? So if I'm in HR or my HR, would they be able to submit the applicants into that team pool that we've already created and established the algorithm from, so we don't have to like retake everything to see how they would fit in there?
Right. So if you had all of your applicants in theory should have taken the test.
Mhm.
So if you lost someone from the team, you could ask the algorithm to replace them with someone that was exactly like that, if that
Okay.
person was a perfect fit. Or maybe you lost someone and that person was not as creative as you would have liked them to be, and you could adjust the algorithm to bring in someone that would have a higher score on creativity.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. I love that it measures creativity because that's a big thing
Mm-hmm.
that we see more, and that
Mm-hmm.
people, and with that also, that creativity doesn't always mean like art and music. There's different types of creativity, and that
Right.
need to be measured as well, because like
Mm-hmm.
I'm an event planner, and so I do a lot of budgeting and logistics, and people don't think
Oh,
Excel sheets are creative, but you have to be creative
you
doing
have to be creative. Yeah, yeah.
so. That's great. Okay. Any more questions for Dr. John before we let him go? Thank you, Delia, for yours. I hope you, in a couple weeks, right? So we'll come back to the link, Delia, in a couple of weeks, and the test should be ready. If not, you can always come out to San Diego for the conference, meet Dr. John in person, and then have your team take the test there. Yeah. Okay, give them a couple more seconds to see. Also, if you're watching the replay and you have a question or a follow-up question to the question that we just asked, please drop it below and we'll have Dr. John log back on and submit any answers that have been asked past the date of the live as well. Well, probably quiet on our side. Okay. Well, I think anything left to say, to explain, to say to our wonderful viewers today?
I'm looking forward to seeing each and every one of you. I promise you that this is going to be avant-garde. It will be something that you've never heard before, and it will be transformative. It will change your life for the better in every area.
I'm so excited. Well, everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you, Dr. John, for your time, and
Very
also
welcome. Thanks for
for
having me.
being one of our fabulous speakers out of so many. I'm so grateful to every single one of you guys. 40 is quite a big number, but I have much love for all of you. Don't forget that early bird is ending at the end of the month, everybody, so you want to catch that soon. And tune in for Thursday's live. We will be interviewing Daniel Goodrich. He's an attorney, and he's going to talk about setting up your company for success. So thank you so very much. You have a wonderful rest of your week, and I will see you at the conference soon.
All right. Looking forward to it.
Have a wonderful day. Bye,
Okay.
everyone.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye-bye.